Good morning, everybody. This is Dr. Charmaine Gregory, and I wanted to get on this Monday, and I really want to talk about how we can face fears. Yes, I am talking about that. And I also wanted to shamelessly promote this week's episode of the Fearless Freedom with Dr. G podcast. And on the podcast this week, I talk about two truths about fear. And these truths are from a very excellent book that has been out for a very long time, but is still very pertinent because the things that she talks about in the book are absolutely phenomenal because they transcend time, essentially. And the book is called Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway, and it is by Dr. Susan. Forgetting her last name now. Oh shoot, it'll come back to me. I'll put it in the link on the live. Jeffers. Oh goodness, how did I forget that? I love that book and I use it a lot, so I don't know why I forgot that. But Dr. Susan Jeffers, and basically she talks about the things that are behind the reason why we fear and provide some really practical solutions on how to face fear. So that's kind of why I love it. It's been a huge inspiration for me in the fact that it has allowed for me to take some action in my own life about fear. And also, I talk about some things that I've learned from Brene Brown's book, Dare to Lead, and on how vulnerability can actually lead to courage, which I think is fascinating. But anyway, so it's Monday, and everybody is probably like, oh, but Mondays are opportunities, right? For me, Monday doesn't mean anything because I work every single day. It doesn't matter what the day of the week is. There's no set like beginning and end of the week for me. But for those of you who have just ended a weekend and Monday means returning to work, then I hope that you will have an awesome week at work this week. And, it's all about mindset, right? We can definitely consider Monday as a torturous day, as a return to our vocation, or we could look at it as a blessing, right? Because we have had an opportunity to enjoy the weekend with friends, family, doing things that we love, and then now we're returning to the thing that is providing us with a source of income and hopefully a source of fulfillment as well. So, yes, so let's talk about fear, right? So, there are these truths about fear that we may or may not be privy to, or we don't realize that these are the case. So the first one is that the fear never goes away, right? The fear doesn't go away. And hey, Barb, good to see you. I haven't seen you in so long. Hope you have an awesome day. Basically, the fear never goes away, all right? So why doesn't it go away? Well, it doesn't go away, but what happens is the more and more we face our fear, the more and more we do the things that we are, quote unquote, afraid of doing, is the less that fear's intensity is, right? But it doesn't ever completely go away. So I'll give an example. So for example, I was saying, and I kind of talk about this a little bit on the podcast, which you should listen to, by the way, and the episode is out. So on all your podcast listening platforms, it's called Fearless Freedom with Dr. G. And I do talk about this in greater detail, but I'll give you an example of a fear. So I talk a lot about my fear of public speaking. Like I talk about how before I go on stage the night before, I get zero sleep. Immediately before, I have a lot of difficulty with, palms getting sweaty, palpitations, so my heart's beating really fast and feeling like it's gonna really burst out of my chest. I get really nervous. I start thinking of, all of the negative soundtracks are running through my mind. Like, oh my God, I'm gonna walk out there, I'm gonna totally trip and fall on my face, and I'm gonna be a bloody mess. It's gonna be blood on my face, blood on my suit, blood everywhere. Or that, there's gonna be something in my teeth. Everybody's gonna focus on that, and nobody's gonna listen to the content. All these negative reels are kind of playing in my head. So that is a problem, right? But what happens? So now I've made a decision that I'm going to face the fear head on. So I'm going to get on more stages in front of more people And what has that done? That has not removed the fear. It has definitely lessened the intensity of the fear. So now, do I still feel a little nervous getting on stage? Yes, I do. Do I feel a little nervous before a podcast episode is recorded? Yes, I do. But now I know that I'm not gonna spontaneously combust. I'm not going to explode. Like, it's gonna be okay. No one's going to die in this scenario, right? And so that makes it a lot easier to do, right? To face that fear. So if you think of a fear in your own life that you are considering facing, or you are in the process of facing, realizing that the fear is never going to go completely away, but still progressing forward in facing it, because every single time that you do the thing, it basically minimizes the intensity of the fear that you're feeling. So it's totally worth doing. Totally. Tear that Band-Aid off and get going, do anything. And then the other truth is essentially that, like, recognize that it's there and do it anyway. Like, go out there and do it. So if you have a fear of, and of course I'm talking about fears of things that are not going to be injurious to your body or your mental health, anything that's not, this is not something that is going to be detrimental to you as a person. But I'm talking about things like, I gave the example for myself where it's a fear of public speaking, but I give other examples on the podcast where I talk about, what it was like when I was a brand new intern in emergency medicine, and I had to write my first order for morphine, or I had to run my first resuscitation in the trauma bay. So, there are definitely some fears there. So, how do you go about facing them? How do you go about conquering them? And how do you progress forward so that you can have the best life possible, right? Because what allows us to have the best life? When we are literally taking advantage of the risks that are presented to us, taking those risks, and then stepping over that comfort zone boundary and into the discomfort zone, and then having amazing growth happen, right? So that was what I talk about there. So definitely check it out to get some more detail on that. And then the other thing that I mentioned was Brene Brown's concept that when we are vulnerable, we are actually courageous leaders. We're more courageous. And I really get into, what she talks about with the common misconception that vulnerability is equal to weakness, and it's not. Vulnerability is actually a strength, because when we are vulnerable, we are doing what we normally would do as human beings, which is we are emotion. We're showing emotions, right? Because vulnerability essentially is a sign that we are human, that we have emotions, and therefore, if we recognize that and we utilize that, then we can be that much better. We can be more courageous. We can be courageous leaders. We can make an impact on those around us, and we can boldly face our fears and emerge on the other side with tremendous growth and be victorious. So I hope that you'll check out the podcast. I hope that you'll have an amazing, amazing Monday. And I hope that you'll have a fantastic week. And if you do check out the podcast, I really hope, again, the name of the podcast is Fearless Freedom with Dr. G. I hope that you will leave us a 5-star rating and a positive review, as well as share it with a friend. Because guess what? I have no budget for promotion. This is all something that I'm doing on my free time. I have no sponsors. And so basically I have no way of getting the podcast out further. So I am essentially relying on those who listen to share it, give it a good review, and give us a 5-star rating so that it can be heard by more and more people. So I appreciate you, and I hope that you will have an awesome, awesome day today. And remember to be strong, be brave, and unleash your greatness.